This podcast is not intended to provide any investment advice. The opinions expressed here by either the hosts or guests do not necessarily reflect the views of PSA, Collectors Holdings, or any of their affiliates. Any discussion of collectible values in the past or present is not a guarantee of future performance.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the PSA Pod. Ryan Green here with PSA President Ryan Hoge. Back in the studio, we got a lot to go through today. We're going to talk about the Toronto Sports Card Expo coming up. We got a little bit of a glimpse at PSA's upcoming holiday specials. We got a lot, Ryan. But first, it's Monday morning. We got our coffee. We're settling into the week. I'm still recovering a little bit from the heartbreak yesterday, wearing my Bears hoodie today.
That's brave. That's brave of you. I saw that.
I'm a big believer in you got to support your teams when they need you the most, because I'm a little bit of a simp sometimes like that. But, yeah, that stunk.
Yeah, that was a pretty brutal way to lose. Not going to lie. But my Cowboys didn't look any better.
Yeah,
I'm not wearing my Dak jersey.
See, I'd rather lose like that.
Yeah. Hey, but good week in fantasy, at least for me. You got your first loss in our PSA league.
When it rains, it pours, man.
Yeah. That's okay. You're still looking good.
The Bears game was so depressing that like the fantasy stuff isn't even bothering me today.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, that ending of the Bears game was just wild. Yeah, whatever.
I got a lot of thoughts. This isn't the space.
Yeah, it's okay.
But really cool sports weekend though, because it was kind of overshadowed a little bit now on Monday morning, but it resumes tonight. The World Series. We are recording this Monday morning for reference.
I actually just saw something, a tweet this morning that it's one of those rare days where today, Monday, we have World Series, we have Monday Night Football, we have
NBA.
There's NBA, there's NHL, there's even some soccer games happening. So it's like the confluence of all professional sports in the U.S. all happening on this magical day. So gonna be kind of fun to watch.
I just think it's so. I mean, look, me personally, I have no dog in this race. I don't collect anybody on the Dodgers Yankees. I'm not necessarily a Dodgers Yankees fan. I know you're an Ohtani guy, an Ohtani collector, but I can respect, as both a sports fan, as a hobbyist, how cool it is for the Yankees and the Dodgers to be playing in the World Series, and then you get a moment like you had Friday night with Freddie Freeman. That was just awesome.
It's pretty cool. Yeah, I'm not a fan of either team in a meaningful way. I went to my first Dodgers game this year, and that was a cool experience. So I'm rooting for the Dodgers. I'm definitely not a Yankees fan. I'll put that on record. Just growing up in Dallas and having the Yankees beat the Rangers so many times in the playoffs in the late 90s. Being kind of our playoff nemesis, you develop a hatred for the Yankees.
It doesn't go away.
No, it doesn't. But they got a great team. They got superstars. I mean, that's what this World Series is. It's kind of a matchup of the superstars with Soto and Judge and Ohtani and Mookie and Freddie. Like, just some amazing talent assembled. These are the two, highest salaried teams.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at their overall spend, but it shows up. The performance is there on the field. And the first couple of games have been awesome. We had some friends over at our house to watch the game on Friday night. One couple were Yankees fans. Husband, he grew up in New Jersey, so they had their Yankees hats on, and the rest of us were going for the Dodgers, and it was a pretty epic ending for us.
One thing I thought was really cool, we talk about the hobby in line with this, and something that Topps has brought in. We talked about this here in the office over the last couple of weeks about how cool it is with what they're doing with the Topps Now program right now.
Yeah.
Starting with that, in baseball with the 50-50 game from Shohei Ohtani, and weaving in where it used to be they would have players sign autos, and those autos would be available for sale on Topps.com. Now they're essentially making them chases of the base card.
Yeah, and they're weaving in relic components, like the logo from his pants from that
and
game.
It's so cool what they're doing. So unsurprisingly, Saturday morning, they're like, we've got the bases that Freddie Freeman was rounding, and those relics are going to be included in cards. This is one of my favorite hobby innovations of 2024, and it's just kind of like a minor tweak on what they were already doing. They already had these autos and relics and inscriptions, but now they're timing them so perfectly and making them part of a bigger, just a straight up hobby chase where they're inserting them in these sealed packs that are put into random orders. I think it's so cool.
I think it's great. I think it's really innovative. It's fun. It's at an affordable price point. I think if people want to just kind of get that, know that they're likely just going to get the standard kind of base card, but it's a cool memento to remember that moment.
Yeah.
And yeah, you're getting in for $12 or $13, and maybe you get lucky and you get one of these really cool limited edition ones.
Hobby wise, who's, again, we're recording this before Game 3, but who's kind of exciting you the most so far in the World Series?
Oh, as far as watching, I mean, Soto, I think might look the best of the bunch, and he's got his pending free agency, so I think that will be really interesting, just to kind of see how he does the rest of the way, and then does he re-sign with the Yankees, or do the Mets make a strong push for him? I think they're going to. I'm hoping Ohtani's back tonight. I mean, he's probably the most exciting player on the field, and that sliding injury looked a little awkward. Supposedly he's going to play tonight, so I'll be keeping a close eye on him. But yeah, it's going to be fun. We'll see. I'm predicting this is going to go at least 6. Is my guess, but I
hope so.
I think Dodgers in 6.
I hope this isn't completely dated by the time we release it, and the Dodgers swept them out. But if it happens, it happens. It was interesting after Freeman's moment Friday night. I thought it'd be interesting to just take a look at some data, because when there's big moments like that, I always like to go look at guys' cards and things like that.
And Freddie's a guy that's like, he's had a really good career, and he's still relatively young in his career.
Probably a Hall of Famer, if we're being honest.
Yeah. But really underappreciated, I think.
Yeah. So listen to this. We pulled some data late last week of the most graded players during the 2024 season. So March through current. From both the Dodgers.
Meaning they were submitted and we graded them
during the season.
Yeah.
So for the Dodgers, if you had to guess in that top 5, where does Freddie fall?
He's probably, Ohtani's 1.
By a mile.
Yamamoto's probably number 2.
Mm-hmm.
Is Mookie number 3?
He is.
Freddie might be 4th.
He is 4th.
Okay.
So
hey, look at that. I know my baseball.
By 17 cards over Clayton Kershaw. So 5,032 Freddie Freeman cards graded this season, compared to Shohei Ohtani, 111,981.
Yeah.
So, I mean, look, those of us who collect, we know that kind
what
of
about
the cycles.
Mookie? How does he compare to Mookie?
Mookie's 8,055. So about 3K ahead of him.
Okay. All right.
But we know how it works with guys as they get older. There's less of a chase for their cards. Mm-hmm. He was a rookie in 2011 products when there was far less of him out there. I believe he was a Topps Update guy. Yeah. The same set as Trout. So just kind of interesting to look at that. And even on the Yankees side, it shows you how dominant Ohtani is in our grading room. Like I said, almost 112,000 cards. The most graded Yankee this season is Aaron Judge at 30,500. So
not a small number.
No, it's not a small number.
But that's a huge gap.
Yeah. The number 3 overall guy between both teams, Jason Dominguez.
Who's not even on the...
He's on the roster.
He's on the roster?
He's basically just a pinch runner at this point. Yeah. So, yeah. Just interesting.
Collectors love prospects.
Yes,
they love potential.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
And the fact that Dominguez is still as graded as he is now, because you remember the craze around him in 2020 with the first Bowman.
Yeah.
So... yeah, overall, my biggest takeaway, like as someone who, as a fan, doesn't really care what happens in this World Series, the fact that we're having a good hobby World Series,
I think it's great.
Just really means something to me, and we're not getting 2 teams that not only are fans apathetic about, but like collectors are as well.
Yeah, I know people made fun of the World Series last year. I personally loved it, being a Texas Rangers fan.
I loved it as a baseball guy.
Rangers Diamondbacks wasn't the most historical matchup that people were clamoring for, But yeah, no, this year it's kind of getting back to tradition. Like, these are the 2 powerhouses of all time. So
baseball's having a moment.
Yeah,
and
it's cool.
It's cool to see. So, every year we get to the end of baseball season. It's late October now, which means we're just about to turn into holiday season in November, December. We got a lot coming up on the PSA side in the holiday season, and it really starts in 2 weeks. the Toronto Sports Card Expo. So we just officially announced we're going to have on-site grading at the Toronto Sports Card Expo.
Second year in a row.
Yeah, second weekend of November. Second year in a row. So tell us why this show, because in the U.S., we really only do on-site grading at the National every year. Second straight year we're doing it in Toronto. Why this show?
So this was probably a year and a half ago now. We had a dinner thing where we were hosting a bunch of some of our larger partners, auction houses. They were in town, and we had some meetings, and we had some folks in town from Canada as well, including Brad Hartland, who works for us and runs our Canada office. And Brad happened to be sitting at a dinner at the dinner table with myself and our head of grading, Reza. And Brad was telling us about this show and how big it is and how there's a huge opportunity for us, that it's been growing every single year. And so after hearing kind of that excitement there, we did a little bit of digging afterwards, spent a month or so looking into it. And then we decided, hey, you know what? We're gonna take a plunge and we're gonna try this thing. The show happens twice a year. There's an April version, there's a November version. I think this was like February of 23 that we decided we were gonna do the on-site grading in November. Weren't sure what to expect. We ended up having a great show. I think collectors were really excited to see PSA there. We know going to these in-person events, it lowers the friction, it lowers the fear that people might have of shipping something in the mail, especially if it's going cross-border, like folks in Canada having to ship to California. So we had such a great time meeting with all those customers that we decided to put it as a repeat, for this year. I'm actually going this year. I wasn't able to make it last year, so I'm excited. This will be my first trip to Toronto since 1993 when I went to the World Series.
The Joe Carter year.
The Joe Carter game. That was my first World Series game, and then I went last year, Rangers Diamondbacks. So yeah, I haven't been to Toronto since I was a kid in high school. So yeah, it's been a long time. So I'm looking forward to it. Looking forward to meeting with some of our partners and customers up there. We're expecting another great show. Lots of really cool vintage that we see, both hockey and baseball. There's a lot of ungraded stuff still up in Canada. So it's exciting. I'm looking forward to being there.
As a Chicago Blackhawks fan, I loved last year hearing about, like, Bedard was the buzz of the show and card wise. I assume this year it's going to be 2X because all of his products are out now.
Yeah, and a lot of the higher end products are out.
Yeah.
So you're seeing the SP Authentic and more of the autograph and kind of patch type cards that are in there. So
I still haven't bought any.
Yeah, I know.
I just can't. I'm going to wait a minute.
I bought one. I bought one.
You pulled one too.
I did pull one. I sold that one during the frenzy,
Smart.
but I bought another one that's kind of a limited edition one. The 1992 Upper Deck Retro. It's numbered out of 10. It's in my vault, in my PSA vault. So it's there. It's cool. I think he's a phenom, so I want to have some exposure. But yeah, I'm expecting to see a lot of Bedards, and then hopefully a lot of really cool vintage. I know last year we graded a 1954 Topps Hank Aaron PSA 8.5, which is a big card, and you don't see those very often. So that was pretty cool.
Big. It's a decent TCG show too.
It is,
what I understand.
Yeah. We'll see a pretty healthy mix of TCG as well.
Yep. So right on the heels of the Toronto Sports Card Expo, we're going to have holiday specials again this year launching. For those of you who follow us on social, get the emails from us, our regular submitters. You saw the holiday specials last year. We had kind of that running schedule.
And we're already teasing
drops.
We're already teasing some stuff. It feels like a little early. Like I'm starting to get emails about seasons gradings in October. It's just like
never
everything.
Too early, man. Come on. There's Christmas decorations up in my neighborhood. It's never too early.
The peppermint mochas at Starbucks, one of the eggnog lattes.
But we gotta. What adjustments are we making to the schedule this year?
Yeah, so I think the promotions went really well last year. I think people liked the variety. But one of the things that we heard about was, hey, I didn't have enough time to get a submission ready.
Yeah.
Normally when we do specials, we will run them for a month. So you got a whole month to kind of figure out, hey, okay, it's this decade or it's this category. I'm going to go through my box of maybe to be graded, and I'm going to really sort and decide, okay, yeah, these are in, these are out. When you compress that to a week, especially with people traveling for work or whatever, and a lot of people travel in November and December just around the holidays, seeing family. So we heard from people, hey, I didn't have enough time. I missed out on this because I wasn't able to get my submission together. So one of the changes we're making this year, instead of having weekly specials, we're going to go 2 weeks. So you'll kind of see first half of November, back half of November, first half of December, back half of December. Hopefully that'll give people a little more time to get those orders assembled. But one of the other things that we thought went really well is there was a good amount of variety with the specials to appeal to lots of different types of collectors and customers out there. So I would expect to see similar mix this year where you will see different eras, sports, non-sports, TCG, even other things in the kind of tickets and packs world. We're going to run a pretty balanced and kind of mixed promo special calendar for the remainder of the year. But I'm excited about it. I think folks will find something that appeals to them, and hopefully they can take advantage of it, as being a Collectors Club member.
Well, that's coming up in November. While we're still here in October, what's the coolest thing you've seen here at PSA this month? Let's before we get to our mailbag, we got a lot of questions coming from our social audience. I want to talk a little bit about what we've seen here in October, because we see so much cool stuff here. We want to start making this a little bit more regular part of the show, of just some of the stories behind some of the cool stuff coming in. What's been your favorite thing in October? So it takes a lot to get me excited about, seeing something that comes through. We see amazing stuff every single day. But earlier in October, we had a walkthrough crossover review of the 1961 Wilt Chamberlain. It was recently graded by SGC, a 10. It was covered pretty extensively on social media about it. Was just recently uncovered raw, not too long ago.
I think it was up in Minnesota. And I hadn't seen it before, obviously when it went to SGC, but the card looked amazing in the holder. And so when the owner of that card decided to submit it to PSA, we were blown away. Just looking at that card, I think it's one of those ones that really just stands out. How natural it looks. It looks like it was pulled just from a pack. The
color was unbelievable.
Color was unbelievable. It had rough cut edges on the left and right. A lot of people, I see some people comment on that sometimes on social media, and they'll say, "Look at those edges."
Explain it.
Yeah. So the way that the blades and things were used previously, you wouldn't always get a smooth precision cut like you're seeing on ultra modern cards today, like on a Topps paper or even a chrome issue. So when you see a little bit of that rougher cut, it's kind of the combination of the cardboard stock that was used, but also the blades that weren't the most precision or sharpest. And
it's like they were cutting cards with hacksaws. In the 50s and 60s,
but I think that's a pretty natural look. And so our graders on the vintage side eat that up. They love that because it shows them that it's real, it's there, it's natural. And so this card exhibited that with perfect centering. And we've graded a couple of other Chamberlain 10s. I think this might now be the fourth. The other ones were graded a really long time ago, back in the early to mid 90s at PSA, and I can say without a doubt, I think that this one is the nicest of the bunch.
Yeah.
Like, it's an exceptional card. So that was really cool to see come through.
Heard that from a couple senior voices in our grading room too.
Yeah,
that just for all the qualities, this might be the nicest copy there is.
Yeah, and again, we have a range of factors that get considered when you're grading a card. Ultimately, it's up to the grader to kind of do their assessment on where it lands. But, this one was pretty exceptional. So
here's a question for you. All things considered, saying this is the best of the bunch of the 4 PSA 10 copies, could that potentially be that individual example, could that be the most significant vintage basketball card in the world?
So the only other vintage card, though, that I could see maybe passing the Chamberlain as far as desirability and value would be if the first ever 57 Topps Bill Russell PSA 10 emerged. That's a white whale. That would take the cake, in my opinion. Like, this Chamberlain, just based on who he is, the player, and that was like the 1 year that Fleer kind of got in with this product.
Yeah.
And I think that might be the single most impressive card we've graded at PSA in 2024.
I think you're right. Wild.
It's pretty cool. But I'm a vintage guy, so I'm a sucker for that.
No, I think you're 100% right.
I'll take that over the shiny stuff any day. But Yeah, it was pretty special day in the grading room.
It's funny because you fast forward now, talking about the shiny stuff. It's a repetitive theme so far this year. Like Victor Wembanyama just continues to dominate in the grading room, but we're seeing really cool stuff. Obviously the Prism and Optic kind of dominated the summer months, but now you're getting some different twists on it here in the back end of the year. You got this Topps Mercury product, which I know there's a lot of, thoughts on both sides with the unlicensed cards, but there's a lot of really cool innovation with it, with some of the game jersey pieces that on the back of the card are tied to a specific game and date.
That's cool.
That's an innovation I would love to see Topps continue with a lot of things.
I mean,
going
he used to have more of that. Like, think about the Michael Jordan game used All-Star game jersey.
You knew
in the first
exactly
one.
which
You knew
game
exactly.
it was.
Yeah. More of that is better.
And then Panini comes out of nowhere with this Prism Deca product, which has been flowing in like crazy. Essentially a throwback 2012 Prism design with a modern checklist, all the current parallels. So it's, we're going to have more data here towards the end of the year as we wrap up 2024, showing just how dominant Victor Wembanyama has been in the grading room. But at least we're seeing some cool different stuff here towards the end of the year.
Yeah. I mean, it is insane how many Wembanyama cards we've graded, though.
Yeah. He's already in the top 20 of the most graded athletes of all time.
Yeah. I've done some press things the last few weeks, and folks might have read some stories about this where we shared some of the stats, but it's mind-blowing. Yeah, it is mind-blowing how many cards that we've graded of his, considering his first real card, came out a year and a half ago?
Yeah, and his first licensed card came out in the summer. It really, it's been interesting.
Yeah.
So, and then, obviously as football season's kind of hitting its peak in the regular season, we're starting to see some of those products start to come out. Donruss football just came out. These jumbo downtown cards, which PSA is authenticating and grading. We have
a
lot of questions about those, but I think that's going to be kind of one of the bigger buzzier areas in the next 3-4 months. A lot of these
great rookie class this year.
Yeah, rookie QBs that are actually playing well and delivering. Yeah. So it's going to be a good finish to the year.
You got your guy, Caleb.
Yeah.
And then your other guy, Jaden.
Oh, I really like Jaden too. He didn't.
He went to ASU for the first part of his career, so he was kind of my guy for a little while. I know. And even Drake May looks good.
Yeah, Drake May looks good. Bo Nix looks good.
Yeah.
And then you got 2 more rookie quarterbacks that really haven't even played yet. You got Penix, you got McCarthy who's injured. I mean, it's gonna be a heavy chase for a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, no, I like it. I love strong rookie classes. It drives the hobby. It's good for our business, and I think it's just fun for collectors.
All right, Ryan, we're gonna finish up today with a mailbag segment. So we took some questions from social media. Moving forward, you got questions for the show, especially for Ryan Hoge. You know where to send them. You can add us at PSA Card on X, Instagram, etc. But we also have a show-dedicated email inbox set up, psapod at collectors.com. You can send questions there anytime. We'll address them on an upcoming show. So we got a handful of questions from our audience for today's show, so let's dive right in. We're going to start. This first one comes from Drake Magruder on X. For a card to receive a PSA 10, the grading standard notes that front centering must be within a tolerance not to exceed 55/45 to 60/40. Why 2 different tolerances? Common question. I like this one.
It is a good question. Thank you, Drake. I will do my best to address this. So everybody should know the graders ultimately make the final call on what card's going to grade. Is it going to be a 9, a 10, something else? They factor in lots of different components into that decision making. Centering is one, where that if it falls outside of a certain range, it automatically cannot be at a certain level. And so the way that the graders actually look at this, they are zeroing in on the 55/45. That's what they base most of this on. But they reserve the right in exceptional cases where the eye appeal is there. And I think that's the key thing. Eye appeal matters a lot more, comes into play a lot more on vintage in particular, where there's other elements at play, where maybe there were printing issues, whether it's print damage or fading or the color isn't there. If all of those other elements are there and the centering falls a little bit outside of 55/45, they have the ability to graded a 10. And so I think that's why it says 60-40, to give graders some extra discretion if the other elements of eye appeal are there. And it really applies more so to vintage than it does modern. But for customers, be thinking 55-45.
Yeah.
That's really what the graders look at, especially on the ultra modern and modern stuff.
I'm glad you mentioned eye appeal too, because that does factor in.
It does. So, I mean, yeah, there's lots of things that get considered in the final evaluation of the card.
Yep.
And so that's why we have this slight range here for the 10s.
Next question, also from X. This came from Dr. Swig. Not sure if that's his real name or not.
I bet it is.
Now that you have a partnership with GameStop, will they soon be accepting video games there for grading? So on top of this, a little bit more on the GameStop.
Yeah. I'll talk about the GameStop partnership here for a minute. So this is actually really exciting. We've been working with GameStop for a few months now. They launched a product offering earlier this summer where they are buying and selling graded PSA cards. We work together to help them with some data access, to help them with some of their pricing that they're offering. They also wanted to make sure that they're buying real cards, that there aren't counterfeits and things like that coming through. And so we've collaborated on that front. And then recently we announced that they have come on as a PSA partner dealer where customers can submit at, I think it's a little over 1,400 GameStop locations now in the US. And they've got 2 service levels that they're offering. They're offering a TCG service level, heavily focused on Pokemon. Yeah. And then there's a sports service level. And what's great about this is I think it lowers the barrier of entry of being a PSA customer, especially first-time customers, where there's a little bit of unknown on how to submit. There's fear about shipping things in the mail. So now you can go into one of these participating GameStops, drop off your cards with an associate there. They have a whole process where they photograph them with their iPad, fill out a submission form, seal them in a tamper-evident pouch, and then those go out on a regular basis, weekly or even more frequently than that, to PSA in California. And then we grade them, return them back to that store, and so then you pick them up at that same store. And so we're only a couple weeks into it, but early signals are looking really good. We're hearing good things about it in the community, so we're excited to continue to see this thing scale as a way for us to reach new customers that maybe haven't submitted to PSA before. Now, on the question about video games, so we own and operate WADA. That's another category that rolls up kind of under the PSA family on complete in-box games, cartridges, as well as sealed. It's a fun segment. I actually own a few of these games myself, stuff from my childhood that I think is cool to have on display, but no imminent plans to extend to video game submissions at GameStop. Focused on cards for now.
Also from X, this came from JK. Will there ever be a time where you have several PSA offices across the country? I'm one of those people who doesn't want to put my cards in the mail. I'd rather hand deliver them for submission.
Yeah, so we're doing a few things on this front. So we have 2 domestic locations today. I announced on our 10/10 day, we did an Instagram live conversation where I announced that we're going to be opening up a Plano, Texas location in the Dallas area in 2025. We plan to allow public drop-offs at all 3 of those locations, so California, Texas, New Jersey. But the other thing that we're doing a lot is what we call these drop-off events or in-person events, where we're partnering with card shops and occasionally sports teams, and we are actually having PSA employees go around every weekend. We're doing 1, sometimes 2 events at various locations around the country where customers have the opportunity to drop off their submissions with us, maybe get questions asked on what service level should I submit this under? Is this worth grading? Is this not? In lowering those barriers, again, similar to the GameStop comment, there's a lot of friction to submitting your collectibles, especially first timers, and or just saving on shipping costs, so you don't have to pay to ship those to us.
Yeah.
So go to psacard.com/events. You can keep up to date with where we're going to be. We plan to expand this in a dramatic way in 2025. Like I said, we will be having 1, sometimes 2, maybe even 3 events happening every week as we get into 2025, in addition to doing more things at our offices. And then we're going to do more things working with kind of our partner and dealer network too, where you might start seeing always on locations with some partners that maybe run a brick and mortar hobby shop.
Lots of good options.
Yeah, we had a great one over the weekend at Cards HQ in Atlanta. Yep. I was texting with Jeff Wilson, and it brought in a ton of people. They did a really nice job promoting it. A lot of foot traffic into the store, and we saw a great amount of submissions come through. And we did one the week before. We were in Bellevue, Washington, at Collectors Corner Northwest. It was a repeat visit where we were there earlier in the spring, and we actually saw more customers and more cards get submitted than we did the first time. So that's a good signal that that we can build momentum and more people will take advantage of it, when we come back.
Yeah, and once again, psacard.com/events, bookmark it.
Yes.
Moving over to Facebook from Jeremy Armagida. Do you guys plan to enhance and distribute the grader's notes to other service levels? Also, do you plan to expand on the coveted PSA 10 label and do something beyond that? Or any other updates to slabs in general? So there's a couple questions.
Yeah. We'll kind of take them in order. So grader notes has proven to be very popular. It's currently available at Express and Hire. We would love to make it available to other service levels. It does take more time to literally write these notes and go through that process. It's not like the grader is taking shortcuts, when they're not doing it, but they do have to write something up, and it does, add time. And so we want to make sure we're doing this in the right way, so that it doesn't slow down our overall operation and that we can keep delivering things as fast as we can back to customers. So stay tuned. Nothing to announce now, but we would like to make it accessible on other service levels. On the question about, do we plan to do something beyond the PSA 10? No, there's no plans there. We think there's something elegant and simplistic with the PSA grading scale, simple 1 to 10, half points up to 9. Very, very easy for people to get. And I don't think we have any desire to mess with that. But questions about holders and slabs, we have been innovating on this. And so we're using different type of plastic material with our holders. We're working on more innovative security measures to prevent tampering, counterfeiting. That's something that we're always trying to stay on top of, so people have a confidence in what they're buying, that they're buying something that's the real deal. We're working on updated holders for the tall boy design. So these are the larger cards, like the 1969 Topps basketball or 70 Topps basketball, that are oversized. Some of the tickets go in these. I don't have an ETA on when those will be in market, but I've been playing with some of the prototypes. They're nice. They're pretty hefty. They feel substantial, but it's the same PET plastic that we're using on the newer holders that it's more scratch resistant, it's got better UV protection. So
feels substantial.
Yeah. So stay tuned. I mean, we're always going to be innovating on this front. And so you'll see more news from us, every year.
Last question from Roberto Colazzo on Facebook. Do you have a plan in place to get the lead times down on submissions? Now, interesting question, because lead time and turnaround times have vastly improved this year. So I guess this is kind of just a question more along, what are we doing on the continuous improvement front?
Yeah. I want to take a little bit of credit here, because I do think that the team's done an outstanding job as far as being faster and more reliable with turnaround times from when the unit gets to us to it shipping back to you. I was looking at some data recently. I think the average order across all service levels, we're at 20 business days. So that's 1 month. Like that is pretty fast given the volumes that we do. Mm-hmm. And especially where we were during kind of the peak of the COVID surge and spike in submissions to PSA and just overall frenzy within the hobby. So I'm feeling really good about the progress that we've made on our bulk service levels and some of the specials. We advertise those at 45 to 50 business days. Oftentimes we're going faster than that. Do I want to go faster? Sure. But we're also trying to balance and make sure that we're scaling the operation in a thoughtful way and in responsible way, so that we're still having accurate and consistent grading. If we were going to, let's say, try to go, super fast and have everything turn in 1 week, the cost for grading would be a lot higher, because we would have to have a much larger staff and a much larger facility in order to do that. But it's something that we're always striving for. We have what's called KPIs, key performance indicators, that the team looks at related to turnaround time and percentage of orders that are meeting or beating their estimated turnaround times. And so every week we are looking at this stuff. And so the team obsesses about it. So don't feel like we're not taking it seriously. But if you want to go faster, we do have other service levels where you can pay a slightly higher fee and get that thing back faster if you really do need it faster.
Exactly.
Yep.
Once again, if you got questions for the show, we're going to be making the mailbag a regular segment here with Ryan Hoge. PSAPod at collectors.com. Or if you just want to DM them to us, send them to us on social at PSA Card on both X and Instagram. Ryan, thanks. It was a good time.
Yeah, this was great. And hopefully I'll see some folks in Toronto in a couple weeks.
We'll be back with Ryan on the show here in a couple weeks right after he's back from Toronto. Look forward to talking about that. For Ryan Hoge, I'm Ryan Green. Thanks again for tuning in to this edition of the PSA Pod. We'll talk to you next time.